I'm not. It's just this is the hardest part,
It is.
getting started. Hello, and welcome to Pot of the Dead, the internet film club nobody asked for.
Nope.
What?
You
Internet
forgot
horror.
horror.
God damn it! I got the club part right, though.
Think of it this way. It's literally just the words of what we do. It's on the internet. We do horror films, and it's a club. Internet
Mhm.
horror film club.
Internet horror film club.
There you
Internet horror film club.
go. Yeah.
Internet horror film club. Just make it into a little ditty, and then I won't forget it ever. All right. Hello, and welcome to Pot of the Dead, the internet horror film club that nobody asked for. I'm your host today, Natasha, and with me, as always, are the two final ladies. Nope, said that wrong.
Just keep going.
Yeah.
And with me, as always, are the two final girls, Nicholas
I am a lady.
and Stephanie.
Hello.
Hi, guys. This week we are going to go over 2022's Smile. What is your guys' history with Smile? Have you seen it before? Tell me a little bit about it.
I remember it coming out, and I saw the trailer of it, and it gave me a certain feel that made me not necessarily want to go watch this movie. Not because I was
Wow.
scared, but it's like, oh, it's smile, like it's like this people smiling at you, and I'm just like, okay, whatever. Um, Beyond that, our daughter Noelle watched it and said it was the scariest movie she'd ever seen. So I was like, okay.
Oh,
And then our other daughter Maya said she got like 10 minutes in the movie and she couldn't. It was too scary. And I was like, okay, maybe there's something to this. So
Maybe, yeah.
that's my history with this film, and then seeing that it's getting a sequel this fall. So I was like, okay, like obviously people really like this. So, when you brought it to the table, I was like, yep, you know, I I wasn't interested in watching it when it came out. But it definitely has done well, like in popularity. So that's my history.
My history is the same as Nick's. That is all.
I
I
saw
didn't
this.
I didn't know anything about it. So
Oh, all right. I saw this streaming right after it came out
mm,
on platforms. So, yeah, this is my second time watching it.
okay.
So were you aware of it like in the sense of trailers and stuff like that prior, and you were like, man, when this comes out, I'm gonna watch it? Or was it like you were scrolling, you saw it, you're like, oh shit, I didn't know this was on streaming, so I'm gonna check it out?
I think we saw a preview for it. I'm almost positive we saw a preview for it in theaters, and that kind of sealed the deal. As far as the rest of the marketing campaign, I think I missed out on all of that as it was happening, but I'll get into that a little bit later. But I do remember seeing a preview and going, "Oh, this looks like it's up my alley,"
Okay.
and
Hmm.
it was. So, it was a little backstory. Smile is, like I said, a 2022 American psychological supernatural horror film written and directed by Parker Finn. This is actually the second installment of the Smile franchise. He
Oh,
originally had made a short film called Laura Hasn't Slept, which is what Smile is based off
okay,
of.
okay.
So it expands on that. It stars Sosie Bacon as a therapist who witnesses a bizarre suicide of a patient, then goes through increasingly disturbing and daunting experiences that lead her to believe she is experiencing something supernatural. So this is in my wheelhouse. I love psychological horror films, so this was like
Th- there are
right there for me.
very specific things about this movie that Steph and I were talking about, and we'll get into when we get into spoiler territory. But there are bones here that it could have been awesome, like for me, anyhow.
Yeah.
But the route that it went, its narrative, like what it wanted to do, was not what I. It wasn't that I didn't expect it. It's just like I was like, okay, all right. Like that's where, like, especially when I'm being told by people that's like, oh man, it's so scary. I was expecting certain things.
Yeah.
Now, now that's not me saying that like I bought into the hype, because I went into this going like, I'm not expecting much, but people are saying it's scary. But
Hmm.
nothing scares me, so that
Yeah.
doesn't, like in a movie. Like there are certain things that scare me, like late stage capitalism and fascism. But in a film, it's not going to do it.
That's fair. Um, I'm not going to go into 2022 in movies because we just did that last week. But instead, I want to talk a little bit about their marketing strategy for this movie because it seemed different and it was like in the wild.
Yeah.
So a couple days before the movie released, the actors of the films showed up at different baseball games and would sit behind home plate with that smile, and just stare dead into the camera. And they wouldn't move. They would just be staring directly into the camera while like the audience around them would start to get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I think that's really, really cool that it's just like happening out in the wild. They also did it at the Today Show. So I feel like I may have seen it on like ESPN or something
Yes.
like that.
Yeah, the
And it didn't
baseball stuff.
register.
The
Yeah, it
baseball
didn't
stuff I do
register that
remember
that's what it
seeing.
was. Yeah.
Yeah,
I
because
thought
like
that was really cool.
they were like when I saw it, it wasn't like natural in the sense of like seeing it and being like, what the fuck? It was people going like, hey, have you guys seen what Smile is doing? Blah blah blah. And they showed like some clips and I was like, oh, that's cool. It's kind of like a guerrilla marketing campaign where they're just out doing like crazy shit. It's not like a flash mob, but it's that idea of just like, and here's like some things that make you uncomfortable, and then by figuring that out, you are then like turned on to their movie, which is really smart.
Yeah.
It's not like exactly like Blair Witch, but it's reminiscent in
Right.
that sense of like, what the fuck am I like? What's going on here? And it's I don't think it's the first of its kind to do that, but it was
No.
definitely very successful at it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. So what do you guys think this movie was made for outside of the marketing campaign? What do you think the budget was?
Ooh.
Oh my gosh, we were
I
talking about this and we had no idea.
I think considering this was like distributed and stuff by Paramount, right? Because I
Mhm.
think that's what we watched it on was Paramount Plus. Um, I mean, visually, I don't think that it makes sense for this to be the budget, but knowing I'm guessing it's probably like $20 million.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with 4 million.
Wow. A 17. So Nick
Okay,
was much closer.
yeah, like it's just one of those things that like it's not in the camera or anything like that. It's more just the like weird shit that we don't see that like the
Yeah.
budget goes into is
Hmm.
where I figured like considering like I said, the marketing, the fuck it was everywhere. Like when it came
Hmm.
out and stuff, like you didn't get a chance to not see a commercial for it or whatever. If you were on
Hmm.
YouTube or you were on anything, there's just smile, 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 smile. And considering this, it feels like a Bloomhouse movie in the sense of like that's where you would think the marketing or the not the market
Mm,
the budget would be like in that 5 to 10 million, but it's like, oh no, it's fucking Paramount and all that stuff. It's like it's going to be double what you think it's going to be for no
Weird.
reason
Yeah.
right. Just because it's Paramount,
because they can throw the
big
money at
company.
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And with that budget, you would expect a lot more, like especially
Yeah.
in the horror like
Well,
area
we've
and
but
stuff.
we've
And
watched a few movies that were high budget that didn't deliver in the high budget.
Yeah.
So I think
correct, yeah.
it's
But I'm
just
just
throw
saying,
it
like
out there and guess.
when you think $20 million for a horror film, you expect to see, well, 17, I'm sorry, $17 million to see a horror film. You expect, some special effects like magic, which yes, there is some,
Hmm.
but like not a lot.
No.
No.
Especially like when your creep factor is based on just a person smiling.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Like $17 million
Yeah.
dollars for that. It's like, okay.
But
Yep.
those smiles, man. Man. All right. So what do you think it grossed based
I'm
off of that?
I'm going to guess. Let's see here. This was rated R, right?
Yes.
Okay. I'm gonna guess that this grossed uh $101 million.
Okay. I'm
Okay.
gonna go 62.
It grossed over $217 million
Damn.
worldwide.
Good
Yeah,
God.
I knew like
105 domestic.
I was close domestically, baby. But like, yeah,
It,
like I knew that it had to have done well, like because for them to also make a sequel like two
mhm.
years later, like they're
Yep.
they're doing the Saw thing in a way. Like it granted, like I mean the second one's not out or anything, but the fact that, you know, They got their money. It's such a vague thing that you can do whatever you want with it. It just has to be creepy, right? It's
Yeah.
got to have people smiling because they don't explain anything
Yeah, they do.
realistically. They do they? people people
Enough.
people and I'm not asking for expository dialogue, but they just kind of go like, this is what I think happens. But like in the next movie, it could be another person just going, well, actually, this is what I think happened,
Yeah.
because there's no like concrete thing. So it definitely, they could make these fucking movies forever as long as they're
Yeah.
turning a profit.
Yeah.
I hope they don't though. I want to see the second one, but even with that, the storyline of the second one isn't as enticing as the first one
The second
because it
one's got to
follows like a pop star.
the second one's got to be better than the first one, because the girl in the second one looks like she can emote and act and more
Yes.
than just flat and
Yes.
screaming.
Yep.
Ah,
That is a
yeah.
huge problem I have with this movie. But
Yep.
like I said,
The
we'll get into that later.
Yep.
So I want to say something else about the budget or about the grossing of this movie. It was actually originally supposed to just go straight to streaming, which I
Yes.
think would have done terribly for it. So Paramount was just going to throw it on their streaming platform, but since it tested so well during test screenings, they decided to put it out in theaters. It ended up being the second highest grossing horror movie that year, and it was on the top 10 movies in general for
So
2022.
so what was the
Wow.
high? Do you have it in front of you? What the highest grossing horror film for 2022 was? Because
I
I'm
think it was
trying. Was it Nope?
Mm.
I think it was Nope, yeah.
That's what I thought. Like I wasn't
Mhm.
sure. I don't have the like. This wasn't my episode today, so I completely like did not look into anything.
Yeah.
The only thing I did check out was the director, specifically to see like some credentials and stuff, because I wanted to like watching it. I was like, this feels like it's got a lot of writers. Like, oh,
Mm.
I'm going to do this, and like a lot of rewrites, and then to find out it's like one writer, I was like, what the fuck? Like that. I just need to get past that wall.
I'm almost there.
Because I don't, no, it's not about that. It's not about that. It's just I don't.
You have so
It,
much to say.
if people haven't seen this movie, it's still extremely new in the sense of like, people that don't go to the movie theaters and stuff. Like, we are those people. We go, and
Mhm.
I tried to see every horror film that's come near me in theaters and stuff like that. Not everyone's like that.
Yeah.
So I don't want to spoil anything.
Yeah. So you mentioned like you thought it had a lot of writers. It was just Parker Finn, but he did have a lot of inspiration based around this. Um he was quoted in a 2022 interview. He was talking about his inspiration for the film, and he said, some films that were on my brain when I was making this in a big way was certainly Rosemary's Baby from 68, and
Okay.
how that sort of positions us with that with Rose's character,
Okay.
and the camera movements and the blocking, and that is based off of Rosemary's Baby. Todd Haynes' Safe from 95 is a movie that he was consistently thinking about during the movie, the way that it places you in the character's anxiety and just keeps ratcheting it up as it goes down, as you go down the rabbit hole. And then Kiyoshi Kurosawa's Cure from
Oh, really? Cure.
97.
Okay. Because there is a very specific movie, two specific movies that I thought were heavily inspired, and that
Yeah.
is
One
not
of them one of them is impossible for it not to be. So
Go
we
go
will
on.
talk about
Sorry,
that.
I when
He
when you
said,
start. Go ahead.
he said just that sort of nightmarish atmosphere of that film throughout that investigation. It was something that was definitely on my mind as he was making it. So those were his inspirations, but there's also a lot of talk about what critics think it was
Ooh,
stylized after.
do you have that?
I do.
Okay, yeah.
Marissa Maribel.
I'm just really interested in like watching the film. I was like,
Hmm.
this reminds me so hard of like if I took, this peanut butter and this jelly and smashed it together. This is what I think it is. So go ahead.
This might work into that because I did see some similarities from other movies that I had seen. So IndieWire's Marissa Mirabal wrote, Smile navigates unhealed trauma through a supernatural lens and a mischievous juxtaposition, despite feeling like a shadow of other stories, and adds that it delivers a captivating and claustrophobic mental hellscape that will cause one to both grimace and grin. She noted that it has similarities to Oculus, It Follows, and The Ring.
Those were the three movies that we talked
Yep.
about last
That's
night.
exactly what
There
we
you
talked
go.
about.
Exactly, because like it is The Ring meets It Follows, and then Steph was like, "There's so much about this that's Oculus and
Yep.
everything," and I was like, "You
Yep.
know what? Yeah, but like for me, The Ring and It Follows were like in my face hard. Now this is the thing though. Oculus, I think, is
Yeah.
a successful movie. Ring, I believe, is a successful movie, and It Follows, I think, are. This one, I don't think is.
Okay.
Like, but it definitely has. It's neat to see someone else pick up on that.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
All right, we will pause for 1 second. I saw She Called Me, and like,
So she's probably freaking out, wanting to know where you are.
no,
and...
because she knows
Okay.
that I fucking record.
Yeah, it's Sunday.
Well, that's what she
She's calling you, so that's.
because she called you first, probably.
Yeah, but she calls me first all the time while we're recording, and I don't answer it.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
So, all right, give me 1 second. Jesus
But there's
Christ.
been multiple times where she's called you and she can't get a hold of you, so she calls me.
I know, but that's what I'm saying is like it might be an emergency.
But she should know on Sundays. Yeah.
Yeah. God damn it. I swear to God.
She left a voice message on my phone. Hold
Yeah,
on.
I'm just gonna call her and be like, what?
Oh, she wants to know if we want to meet up for lunch
Oh.
in 45 minutes.
Ooh.
Hey, I'm recording. What's up? Well, you called me, then you called Steph, so I thought it was an emergency. We could do it if you pushed it back a little later. We probably could, because we're going to be recording for probably the next hour or so. So let's see here. It's 11:30. We could probably do like 1 o'clock. Does that work, Steph?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Yeah, we can meet up at like 1 o'clock. All right, Buffalo Wild Wings, 1 o'clock. All right, got it. Love you, bye.
Hi, Mom.
I fucking hate that shit. Like
Yeah.
I understand I can get that way too, where it's just like I need to get this information to you as quick as possible. And like I even tell Steph, don't text them. Call the kids. Get the answer now. And that's what Mom was doing, but like anytime she does it, it's like Grandpa died. Like you know, like that's so okay.
Yeah.
All right, so
All right.
where were we?
We were talking about
The Ring
how
and
it
Oculus.
was like, other movies.
Yep.
So from here, we can just go on to spoiler territory.
Yep.
And action.
Well, before action, you got to make sure that you got to tell everybody that we're going into spoiler territory, where to check out, all that stuff.
Oh, yeah. I thought we don't have the thingy anymore?
We do, but like it's literally like, hey, you know, like, and I'm not saying where to check us out, where they can check the movie out.
Oh, gotcha.
Because
Where to check-
that's what I always try to do is just go like, you know, all right, you know, like giving all the bullshit like spoiler territory, yada yada yada. If you haven't seen this, and then at the end of the episode, homework, like don't forget all that stuff.
Now that you're talking it out, it makes sense.
Correct.
Okay. All right, from here on out, we are going to be in spoiler territory. If you haven't seen the movie and don't want to be spoiled, you can fast forward to about the last 5-10 minutes of the episode where you'll get your homework for next week. If you want to come along with us, from here on, we are going to spoil, chat, hear likes, dislikes, all of the deets of Smile.
Yeah.
Oh
So,
boy. Oh boy.
Nick,
Yeah.
give me that sweet, sweet 10 out of 10. Written straight from your heart.
I don't know how to read. Can I just not do this?
Then you can just free thought, just let it roll.
Okay. All right.
No.
Don't do
Oh.
that.
Oh.
Based on what's written.
Oh, based on what's written. All right. This is all right, here we go. 10 out of 10. It's rare to find a movie that checks all the boxes you're looking for. This is true. This is me. This is true. It is very rare to find a
Yeah.
movie that checks all the boxes. Smile succeeds on so many levels. The acting, the dialogue, the sound, the cinematography, the building of dread, the scares, and the payoff. Side note, I agree with the sound.
Yeah.
I liked the sound. It deftly uses the real life horror scenario of feeling powerless and alone to build tension, and has so many wonderful and earned in movie jump scares, although many are more just actual scares. Side note. Sorry. All the jump scares in this movie were just, it's quiet and then it's super fucking loud. And
But there was
were
also
to
something on the screen.
They
to
were
say
so
to say they're
bad.
warranted is what my
Oh
problem
my
is.
God.
Yes,
They
there
were
was a
so
lot of jump
bad.
scares. I don't believe they were warranted.
I agree. They were
Okay.
terrible.
Well, you said to write this like with what is going on here, so. And then the third act hits you so hard that you nearly tear the theater armrest off from pure terror. Okay.
No.
This person is fucking horrified by this movie.
Yeah.
Sosie Bacon is excellent as Rose. Her descent
No.
into madness and fear is handled with precise care, and you
No.
really feel her emotional state.
No.
I think so.
I really don't, because
I don't either.
here's my thing is like she's just so flat all the time that
Yep.
like the only direction you get is she's just flat even before it happens, like
Mhm.
before the shit happens, and then like when we'll get there. Okay.
Yep.
So much to say.
I continue with my 10 out of 10 review. You get locked in, or you get locked into the prison of solitude she feels, and it keeps you at the edge of your own sanity throughout the film. The rest of the cast is filled out with some other great performances, but doesn't have quite as much to work with, as he plays straight-laced boyfriend that serves as the mirror of society that Rose looks towards for help and doesn't get much in return from. That is a sentence.
Ooh, that's not a good sentence.
The cinematography is creative and deliberate, and it builds a world that feels both familiar but also uninviting, especially as the film progresses. The score is incredible, but the use of the music as well as the sound design to enhance the moments of dread as well as the scares. And that's the big thing that I noticed with it, was like the sound design and stuff. That's where I get the thing of like where they're comparing it to Cure and like The Ring and stuff like that, is like that weird, dark, ominous, like atmospheric kind of stuff. And I did
Yeah.
like that. That was something I mentioned very early on in the film. I was like, I like the sound design in this.
Yeah.
And without spoiling too much, the evil entity ends up being one of the most memorable and horrifying things in modern horror history.
No.
That is a huge fucking overstatement, because I have a few. This is okay. Hold on. This is a must
Just
watch
finish reading.
for horror and thriller fans. Okay, so there you go.
Yes.
There's the 10 out of 10. I would like to talk about like what they said about like the most memorable horror entities in modern horror.
Okay.
That leads me to believe that this person has actually not seen a lot of modern horror, in the sense of like a memorable entity. Like, so, okay, memorable horror creature or
Yes.
character, right?
Mm-hmm.
Art the Clown, right? Like, whether like or dislike, right? You got like Art the Clown, you've got fucking.
But is art a creature? I think that goes into that discussion of what is a character versus a creature.
I don't think the point of it was that. It was most horrifying things. Yeah, the entity ends up being one of the most memorable and horrifying things. That's it, just things.
Oh, okay.
So it's referring to it as an entity, but I mean, I'm not going to go down a huge list, but like of the modern era, you've got like the Babadook. There's so many different things that I think that the entity at the end is kind of forgettable, personally.
Hmm.
But
I don't necessarily think it's forgettable. I think it was jumping the shark, to be honest.
okay.
And it reminded me of the mother from Barbarian, which I also didn't
Oh,
like.
yeah, I
Kind
fucking
of,
hate
yeah, it
I
does.
hated the
It's
face of
just
it.
too much. Yeah.
Well, see,
Yeah.
but beyond that, even I think that what she is, or the reviewer is referencing, is when it pulls the face off and you actually see the entity.
Mm-hmm.
I will go into it in a bit, but
Yeah.
like I expected it to go a different route. But
I
Hmm.
see. Yeah. All right. Okay,
Okay.
Steph,
1 out of
what do you have
10.
to say?
Okay. This movie was just a compilation of Sinister. It follows the ring. It what is just a compilation of Sinister. It follows the ring. Nothing original about this movie, only a few jump
Thomas.
scares, predictable ending with no backstory of how it started, etc. I liked how they started the movie like it was an original horror flick from the 80s, but again, nothing original was nothing original was highly disappointed. Do not recommend this for any horror fans. The previews was all you needed to watch to know the beginning, middle, and end of this movie. The only time I smiled was when the credits came into the screen as it was ending. There is nothing left to say that this movie was a complete trash. And I don't necessarily disagree with them. I did not like this movie.
I mean, you weren't supposed to smile. That was the whole point. Like,
I
I was
smiling's
know.
I
not good.
I was hoping to smile when like the creature, like there was certain stuff. Are we just kind of in open stuff now?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Okay. So, all
Oh
right.
boy.
Okay. So, we've got this entity. Like, I'm okay with it. Like, they're saying, like, it doesn't explain and everything. I'm cool with it
Hmm.
being vague and they're trying to
Yeah, me
figure
too.
out what's going on. I'm cool with that. That's where, like, the ring kind of comes in, where it's like, you see the video and we think that after 7 days this happens because they basically fucking do that.
It's the exact same thing
Yeah.
in this fucking movie. Like verbatim, somebody kills themselves in front of you, and then you take the entity into you basically, and then it ends you within 7 days. Like that's
Yeah.
what it
And
is.
I'm okay with that. Now, here's my problem, though, is that by the end of it, when we're in the cabin, you know, and we see the form and everything, right? It's
It's
like,
like supposed to be her mother, but not her mother. But then
are we to believe that it's a physical form or it's specifically a mental, like parasite demon kind of thing? It
it's,
I think
that
it's a parasite demon thing that just
I
takes the form of what your trauma is.
I
which
agree.
is fine. But like there's so like when it ends up like it pulls its face off and then crawls in her mouth, I don't like that was a huge like what like
Yeah.
and like I said previously, this film feels like the reason it got popular is because of younger, high school students or people that aren't really and this is not gatekeeping. I'm not trying to be gatekeeping, but people that don't have a lot of reference or history with
Yeah.
horror films seeing this and being like, this is the scariest thing ever. And it feels very like hot topic in the idea, again, not trying to be shitty about that, but in the sense of like younger people just being like, wouldn't it be fucking scary if like someone was like staring at you smiling? Yeah, that'd be fucking scary, man. Like you don't even understand. Like it would just be like staring at you. And it's like that's all it fucking does. And like it's
And
supposed
not
to,
a lot either. It's just very like minimal.
and I'm okay with the fact that like it's this thing like stalking you down and everything, and that's where It Follows comes in and is so much more successful in that like claustrophobia, that fucking tension of something getting closer to you and getting closer to you. The difference is that movie came out like 12 years ago, I think, right? And it's just so much more what's the word that I want to say? Effective at it. Because what I feel this movie does is it just expects everyone that watches it to think being smiled at and stared at is creepy and scary. And if it doesn't do that, it fails horribly because its two tricks are stare and smile and loud jump scare. That's it.
It's also the descent into madness because of your mental health stuff. And I think that the mental health part of this is what's probably scary to some people of like being at a place where you're normal and then your slow descent into madness. And then basically she ends up dying. But like, I think that that's the fear in that, and in that you go crazy is part of it.
Well,
It
Probably.
is. So Finn said that that was the main universal underpinning of the movie is that universal fear of not being believed. And in an interview with Sosie, they talk about like the common theme of it is people refusing to believe the character. She says that women's pain is often ignored historically and currently. It's exhausting, and I see it happen all the time. It's typically just not denied. A lot of times you'll hear, you know, it's not that bad. It's all in your head. And that's the part where, like, yeah, so her acting isn't like the best, but it fits the character that she is because she's meek and trying to like convey this. And she's so sad and falling apart and distraught, and there's no one there to help her. I'm thinking of like the scene with her
I
on the porch with her sister where she's just crumbling and no one's there to like catch her.
every fucking side character in this movie is horrid. Like
Yes.
Yes.
Except for
is,
the ex-boyfriend.
but not
Yeah.
not even in a good, believable way.
Correct.
It's so over the top. The amount of,
I
and
agree.
this isn't me being triggered or whatever, but the amount of like how hard they went to try and like everyone is going to say some sort of horrible way at saying like maybe you're not doing well mentally. It's like fucking nuts, cuckoo, like blah, blah. Every single time it's literally like they had a list and it was like, all right, every single time someone's going to talk about her and everything, we're going to use a different like disparaging phrase, and it feels very cut and paste in that sense where it doesn't feel natural to any of the characters. None of them, and I understand like you know like you shouldn't like it's not that I needed a character to like. It's
Yeah.
just that they were so horribly like they wanted all these characters to be disliked, but they were written horribly. Not in the sense of like they were written like so evil. They were just badly written. Like
I
none
agree.
of the things that they said made sense in like why they're getting to this point already. Every single person, like once the boyfriend is brought to one little mishap and stuff, he just goes to the deep end, right? Which
Yeah.
she does address later, but it's so unbelievable. Like it just doesn't make sense
It's
because
too over the top. To me, there's no like slow descent into it of like
mm-mm,
exhaustion or like just having a like okay, well you maybe like suspended disbelief that there really isn't anything wrong, but you're exhausted because you're dealing with this person's mental health decline and like all of that stuff. You would expect that to be like maybe part of the storyline, but it's not because everything is so abrupt and it's so out in left field and it's acted in a way that it's like well, I can't deal with this anymore. Dude, you haven't dealt with anything. We haven't seen
Yeah.
anything in this. And so, like, none of the characters, it makes no sense from literally any of the characters. The sister is very selfish and self-absorbed, and you could tell that from
yeah.
their meeting for their like, are you coming for her birthday? And oh well, you could at least buy a gift for his birthday and all this shit, like all of that stuff. But like this killed me. So anyway, I know why you like this movie, Tasha. I get it. It has Mike Flanagan written all over
Yeah,
it.
it does.
It does. And so when we were
But
watching
it wishes it was Mike Flanagan.
yeah, I agree because Mike Flanagan's movies are actually better. But yeah, so in this, it does a lot of the Nick didn't notice this, but I did, like focusing on things like with this the alarm, like we're going to show that the alarm and this is how it's set and this is what it looks like when it's set, and then when it wasn't set, now we know what it looks like, and like we
Oh, I
were
didn't catch that.
yeah, and then
Heavy-handed
heavy
foreshadowing.
yeah, and then the same thing with the present thing and the cat missing and like all of this stuff.
That was my favorite part of the movie, and I cheered at a dead cat because that was the one part in the movie that I was like, this is fucking ridiculous. I'm here for this. But like every other bit of that scene is fucking bad. Like everyone's just
Oh,
like
it
up against the walls, like, oh my god. And then she like falls through the table and is just screaming.
Yes.
I'm just like,
And
what? Like,
and nobody cares, and like that's the problem. And I understand like the idea of this movie being like people don't care, this is society, but you're looking at your family
every single
and
person that is connected
every
to this person except her
just
boss does not care. And
and
even
her
then,
her ex-boyfriend,
who just
like
just
that
trying
she
to get it in.
forces to care. Yeah.
He's just trying to get it in.
So like that's the thing for me. Like so she gets a cat, and it gets wrapped in this thing. She doesn't recognize that she killed the cat and put it in the box, which I already knew that's what was going to happen.
Yeah.
So I have no like surprise here. I'm like, that's what we're doing right now.
I
And
forgot that
so
it happened the second time I watched it, and it was still
okay,
scary.
yeah. Well,
Was it scary? Like
It
realistically,
wasn't.
like
No, scary is not the right word. I felt so bad for
repulsed?
Rose.
mhm.
Okay.
No, like a pit in my stomach because like leading up to that, she doesn't want to go. She's already, feeling like shit, but you see her like trying.
Hmm.
She's putting her makeup on. She's practicing like I'm going to put on this good face,
Yep.
and then she's like giving thumbs up. Like I just feel so sad for her in that where she's like, "All right, I'm here. You're going to like what I got you. I got you what your mom said you wanted me
A
to
dead
get
cat.
you." And
Yeah.
then he opens it up and she's just broken, and everyone's screaming because they think that she did it on purpose, and she's like, I don't remember doing it. So it's that scene of like she's trying to like pick herself up, and then just
And that scene
it goes the worst possible
that
way.
scene would make sense in the fact where like, I don't even know how to fucking word it. It's like when they were talking, the reviewer was saying like well earned scares and
Hmm.
stuff like that, right? I don't think that any of it's well earned. It's just like why what is going on in this movie where she would do that? Like there's nothing that explains like why she would put her cat in the box and everything, because all we're seeing is like this stuff creeping up on her. So like that doesn't make sense. It
And
just flat out doesn't.
I agree with that. And I think that's to where we're supposed to get into that you can't trust the narrator. Like, because she'll wake up on certain parts and not realize where she was and things like that. But I do have something to say.
Well, hold on.
There
That
was, oh,
that would make sense. Like that scene would make sense though if it didn't happen. Like if that was in her head.
I
But
see.
it happened. Like that's the thing, is like, because we do see that kind of stuff, like where she goes into the hospital and she kills the guy and everything.
Mhm.
That's all just in her head and it's fucking with her. That would make sense if the cat part was that way too, but it's like, no, she actually did this. That doesn't fucking make any sense.
But technically, we don't know if she killed the cat or not. We just know the cat is in the box.
He pulls the cat out and it's dead as fuck.
Yeah, but it doesn't mean that she killed it.
So
We don't know
okay,
who
so is
killed
it
the
a
cat. It's just a dead cat in the box.
okay, but it's a physical entity now, because I thought we previously said. See, this is my
Yeah.
problem. Is like it's trying to do all this different stuff, and this is where it feels like there's a lot of different writers because they're not paying attention to the scene prior. They're just going, "Oh, and
Uh,
it would make sense if this happened," but it doesn't. It is made no logical narrative sense, like from previously.
It would have
I
made
want to know
more
where the
sense.
train goes.
Yeah.
That's all I kept thinking.
Maybe it's in the cat. Maybe
Well, that's
you
what-
just
well,
jam
that's
the
what-
train in the cat. We're
Well,
going in the
that's what I was
tunnel.
saying. That's what would have actually, not the cat and the train, but like where what would have happened is if her brain would have told her when he opened it that he pulled the train out, but she thought it was the cat because she was worried about
Yeah.
the cat.
All
And then
of
she
that
would have,
shit.
and if everybody else would have been
Good.
standing there watching her freak out over nothing and being like, what the fuck is going on? And that he's holding the train and she's freaking out.
Or even the inverse. She sees him like holding a train. It's like, what? You don't like it and all this stuff, and he's holding a dead cat. Everyone's freaking out.
Yeah.
But all of that stuff makes sense because it's all mental. But this is a real
Yep.
thing that she did. And I'm just like,
Yeah.
I
And
don't
it doesn't
Yeah.
feed in with the character because many of times she's like holding a knife and she's freaking out and her boyfriend comes in and I was waiting for him to get stabbed or something happened to
Mhm.
him and none of that happened. So there's no like she doesn't have that violent component other than when she's dreaming when she stabs the guy in her dream and then she turns around and sees the guy with his face peeling off and shit. So like
Yeah.
that kind of stuff. So I felt like that was a miss in the sense of like what they were trying to accomplish in this movie. I really like the whole movie felt like, and this is what my biggest argument about the movie is, we know the entire narrative going in as the viewer. We know that this is what happens.
and not because of the trailers and stuff.
No,
They set
because
it up
they tell us.
before you see the word smile. They set up the entire narrative right there.
Yes. Yes. And so you are literally just knowing everything that's happening. You know the narrative of it. And then you're just following along with the character while she's figuring it out. So you already know everything. So it's not like anything is an actual surprise to you as the viewer. It's only a surprise to the character. And that
Mhm.
is where this movie is very unsuccessful for me because I want to go on a journey with you to figure it out with you. Or
There's no
I
mystery.
don't, I don't want to know everything. Like, I don't want to know that this is exactly what happens because they fucking tell you from the very beginning and lay it out very cleanly. This
Yeah,
is the storyline. And then
yeah,
that
because
that's it.
when the girl's talking to her and stuff, she explains like, I saw this thing happen. Is ever since this shit's been going on, and then she does it, and like now
Mhm.
we're into the movie, and nothing else technically, narratively happens other than watching this girl descend and find this stuff out. But we
Yep.
already know it. The only thing that we are and this is what I was saying previously, the only thing that we are watching is the descent into madness, which I think
Mhm.
is a huge fail. Not narratively, but acting. And maybe
Yeah.
it was directing. Maybe the director wanted this, which is, more. I'm wrong. This is a $17 million movie that made. I mean, I'm not wrong, but like my opinion is not what the natural
It's not the
consensus is.
general. Yeah.
Yeah,
Correct.
but like when you hear that like this is scary and creepy and all this stuff and blah blah blah, you expect certain things like good acting. Like it was not there.
I mean,
Mm-mm.
that's Kevin Bacon and Kira Sedgwick's daughter, so she's got to have some acting chops.
No, nepotism does not mean anything. I mean,
I meant jeans.
realistically, like I didn't know that. I guess she does kind of look like Kara Sedgwick. Um, but yeah, it was so bad. Like okay, I didn't expect to go in. I didn't expect to like this movie. I
Yeah.
thought it was going to be very mid. I did not expect to hate this movie,
Oh, wow.
and I legitimately hate this movie.
I agree.
Well,
Like I'm sorry.
It was horrible.
no, it's fine.
I'm not trying to be an asshole, but I there were so many times that like scenes were happening and I was like throwing my head back like going like go move on. Like why are we still standing here staring at her when nothing like it's not like we're watching this, it's not like Hereditary where we're watching, there you go, there's a descent into madness that fucking
Yeah.
works, and this
Yeah.
movie is like, oh man, it's so scary, the descent into madness, and I'm like, are you fucking serious? That is in the same era, like come on.
Yeah, it's definitely a Disney-fied version of Hereditary. She in an interview, Sosie does compare her character she drew from the mom in Hereditary.
Oh my
These are
Oh
two-
my God,
These
no.
are vastly different. I don't think you
You're
could
saying-
ever bridge
No.
that
You're
gap.
saying
I
she
agree with
watched
that.
Hereditary and goes, I'ma do that. There's
No.
there is
No,
no
she
No,
didn't
that
say
movie's
I'm pulling
No.
directly, but she
No, but-
compares that concept.
not even
No.
fucking close.
the storyline, no. The acting, fuck no.
Well,
That
no,
movie was fucking
she's saying
brilliant.
the lead, the female
I
lead in
know.
this was like watching Hereditary and like
I
use
kn-
that as inspiration to try and get to
Yeah.
these points. Which
She's
I-
just
No.
not Hereditary's.
She's just not a good
actress.
No.
actress. That's what
No.
I am here on record saying Kevin Bacon, Kira Sedgwick, you need to have a talk with your daughter. And
I'm gonna say this was all directorial, like that she was trying to pull something, and this is what he wanted from her. And like I'm not saying she doesn't have acting chops. I just feel like it was very one note, and then the moments that it was either up or down was very minimal because she was so one note through most of the movie. And then the slowness of this movie was fucking grueling. Like the amount of times she's just standing or sitting there, and we're like, what the fuck is going on? Like, why are we spending 27 seconds just focusing on this thing? It feels very much like the parts in like the movie Alien or parts in like The Exorcist, where it's like this is fucking unnecessary time that's being spent and wasted on things that could have just easily been cut down.
this is
I
definitely
think it kind of like gets you to a point of boredom to where the jump scare might have.
That's what
Some effect.
exactly
See,
that's exactly what it
100%.
feels like.
And
100%.
and that is not okay. So
For me, that's what I like out of this movie. I'm
Okay.
here
You
for
wanna-
the jump scares, and
Okay.
I'm here
hold
for
on.
just feeling so empathetic for.
Okay, I have
Rose's
a
character.
huge problem with that, and I'm going to ask you some questions. Okay, here we
Wait,
go.
okay, please do.
So you would rather a movie be boring for 15 minutes and then jump scare you which takes 5 seconds, to then be boring for 15 minutes, to jump scare you for 5 seconds. Because in a 2 hour movie, because this movie was like what, 147 to 2 hours, somewhere in there, right?
Yeah,
Really
155, I think.
Yeah, like 2 hours. So if we're using that math of 15 minutes, that's 4 jump scares an hour. That means 8 jump scares a movie. For the movie to be boring, but it got you jump scared, like I
Well,
I
no,
don't like, I don't understand that personally.
I wasn't bored for that extent of time, but like where she's holding the wine glass for a long period of time,
That
and then
she
something happens and she
underpours the
drops it.
fuck out of
She does.
nonstop.
I agree. It's like you might as well just take a swig out of the wine bottle if you're gonna take just a little drink and then just chug it anyway. But no, those parts where it is just so quiet and close
Mm-hmm.
for those, 20 seconds or whatever before the jump scare. But like the movie moves along. Yeah, it's not the greatest
Does
movie
it?
ever made, but the
I'm not
jump
saying-
scares are good. When she loses her mind in the car and then sees her sister come out, I think that's effective when it's in her head and then her head tips over. That one's
No.
good.
Okay, here, though.
I'm not done talking.
Okay.
I literally jumped and had a huge reaction to where the entity or whatever was just like right here in her house. Like that still gets me. And like they were effective. Parker Finn was quoted in saying, Parker Finn still loves jump scares and doesn't care if you don't. So this
That's
movie
fine.
is clearly made for somebody like me and not somebody like you.
But do you know what other film? Granted, it's older, but if like, would you consider films post 2000 as like the modern era of horror, or is that still
2000? That's still too old.
20? Like, because I'm just going back to like
2010's up.
I'd
Like-
say 2010, 2015.
and I don't
Yep.
have the year, excuse me, in front of me, but The Conjuring, right? It's got a lot of fucking jump scares in it.
Yeah.
And it's so much more effective.
That movie is very ominous, though, like the whole thing too.
And that's
like,
the thing. I
I
think
thought that movie
that's-
was way more.
I think that that's what they're
successful.
trying to do with like the atmosphere and stuff like that. And like, they didn't like. I don't think they got the atmosphere to properly do jump scares. The jump scares were literally, and this is my problem with jump scares when they're not done properly, is let's just, like you said, lull you into boredom, be very quiet, and then just be loud as fuck. Because it's not that it scares you with what's happening, it's your body's natural
Yeah.
response to go like, Jesus Christ, that's loud. That's not good. That's not
For
good.
me,
That's no
it's that
different.
adrenaline spike.
I understand that, but that's no different than just throwing a fucking glass up against a wall when that shouldn't happen. That is, when done properly and like once or twice in a film, cool. But when that's your only trick, it's really fucking, I would say pathetic. Like, because it's so lazy to me.
I mean, I guess I agree with you, but if that's your intention behind the movie, because that's what people are searching for, it makes
Yeah.
sense because it fits that that stylized thing. I don't like it because that doesn't do anything for me. I don't get jump scared. I mean, very rarely it'll happen, but this movie did zero. It doesn't happen for me, but I can see where if somebody's like really into that and that's just their vibe, then that's fine. It does that. It doesn't necessarily do it successfully, but it does it. And then you could already tell that that's what they were doing going into the movie, because when you started out with the first scene in the movie with all the stuff that happens with the girl in the room, and that in itself was weird, because a lot of the way that things were handled in this movie, like she literally starts like crawling across the floor, she runs to get the phone, and then like she turns back around and she doesn't try to like be like, hey, no, don't do that, like, and she just fucking slits her throat. Like, there was no there's no intervention attempt, there was no, like, even I understand like
And
you
she
don't
works
want to
in the
harm
emergency
yourself.
ward.
Yeah, like
exactly.
she
this
as
is
a therapist is
Exactly.
terrible.
Yeah.
in the emergency ward. Like,
Yeah,
this is shit
and
that
then-
she deals with.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then the guys run in and there's blood all over the floor and he checks her pulse. Like, that was weird.
Cuts her
Yeah.
throat.
And
It's like, whoa, let's not try
what-
to do anything.
Yeah, that's not
Yeah.
roll her over and make sure she's, nothing. And then like that, all of that scene in itself was like leading. That's what you're walking into with the movie, and it's kind of like, what the fuck are we doing here? And then you could tell that it was the attempted jump scare movie. As soon as after that exactly happens, then it shows like it throws you into Smile, the title, and the title is so abrupt and so obnoxious and like throwing it in your face multiple times. And I was like, what the
I'm
fuck did
actually
they just do?
I'm actually surprised that like especially on a streaming platform that it didn't have a warning for epilepsy considering
Mm.
how early in the
Yeah,
film it does that, which
yeah,
I think it was just completely pointless. But I was just like, oh shit, I hope nobody fucking seizes
I
because it's
know.
literally like a strobe light
Yeah.
and yeah.
Yeah, so that was the biggest thing for me. Like you just knew you were going to get into it because they were attempting to jump scare you with just the fucking title of the movie. And so yeah, and then you just kind of follow along with it. I didn't find, I realistically, I when she got to the house, which she decided to go to because they randomly still own it, which was also very odd to me because her mom died when she was like 10 or 11. And then she goes and she's like, what in her, she has to be almost 30 because she's a therapist, right? So
Mhm.
like I would say she's like mid 20s, early like late 20s. And so like they've had this own this house for 15 to 20 years and like at least 15 years. And so she goes to this house and like to face her fucking issues, which is weird. And then she sees her mom and then the whole fucking thing plays out. And the whole time I'm just like, what are we doing? Like, and
Yeah.
then she's like, because like she's almost like, I'm gonna take care of this myself. I'm just gonna go and do this myself. And then she does essentially. And then her mom like grows into this big monster. And I thought the monster coming out of the bedroom and like following her down the hallway was actually pretty cool looking until you actually get to see the monster and then
The
like its
face.
face and like everything else that plays out with it. And then I
The
was like,
hair in front of it as it's coming out of the doorway
Yeah.
was
yeah,
cool.
that
Like
was
that was a
cool.
cool visual.
Yeah, it was. And like the growing of like the of all of her, it's basically her internalized issues. I can definitely understand that. And then, it's coming after her essentially, and then, to consume her. But it doesn't really consume her. It goes in her mouth.
It goes
Correct.
into you. Yeah, it goes into
But it's
them.
already in you, right?
That's the
Yes.
part I
See,
don't
like
think so.
that's where the whole thing is a problem for me.
I think that's when you then kill yourself is when it finally gets into you. So the woman in the therapist office at the beginning is freaking out because she sees the entity and then the entity gets into her. Then she stands up, she's smiling and then slits her throat. So the whole time leading up is the
It's just
entity
following you.
trying to get to you, I
My
think.
my problem though is what is our view of the film? Like what is our position? Are we following the narrator? Are we a separate third party? All that kind of stuff because so much of it is like, okay, we're seeing what she's seeing. Okay, now we're not seeing what she's seeing. Okay,
Yeah.
now we're that's where like it's such a clusterfuck of like what is my perception in this movie?
Well, and how can it be a mental perception if it's not inside of you? Because
What do
it's
you
making
mean?
her do it when she's sleeping. And if it's not inside of you and creating these thoughts when you're sleeping, then it
Yeah,
doesn't make any sense because it would have to be inside of you in order to give you those mental things. You can't just be visual if you're sleeping.
well, like if it's like, like its influence is able to make you do things. Okay, so its influence causes her to kill her cat and wrap it, right?
Yes.
How is that any different than it killing yourself?
That's a great question.
There's just a lot of that I understand wanting to be vague so it's mysterious, but
Has to
it's not doing
make
itself
sense.
any
Yeah,
favors.
it has to
No.
follow the same storyline.
Yeah. And
Parker Finn says that there was sorry. They liked the ambiguity of the entity in the film. He liked the ambiguity that the film was living in. There's something really interesting about taking something so internal and psychological then and then something so external and bombastic, this is talking about the entity,
Hmm.
and kind of braiding them together until they're indistinguishable. And I'm hoping that will go the extra distance to get under the audience's skin. He said he didn't want the entity to have a specific name. They
I
wanted
like
it to
that.
be kind of, where
It
did it
just
go?
is.
yeah.
Yeah, that it's unknown and it's always much scarier when it's unknown instead of pulling off the veil. Even though they do pull off the veil, but we still don't quite know like where it came from or
True.
what it
And
actually is.
I'm down with that, like not naming it, like all that stuff, like because that was like that's cool. Like I do like that. My problem though is like it feels like making it up as you're going along, right? Like the
Yeah.
rules. Um, and leaning on the fact that it's vague and the ambiguity there feels like, well, I can't explain it, so it's vague, guys. Like whatever. And it's like, no, like you should really know. Like you don't have to tell me what the rules are, but you should know what the rules are. And it feels like you don't even know what the rules are. Like,
He said that it's important to not put it in any kind of box. And I think that was a misstep.
see, and that's the thing that always just seems like really like backpedally kind of answers when someone's like,
Mhm.
so like what do you think? It's like, I mean, like what do you think? Like it's like that kind of shit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, no, like you you can tell the difference between somebody that has all the information in them, but they're not going to give it to you and you're just going to pick up on stuff. I'll use Talk to Me as a prime example. And this is like, I just made all this stuff and it's like, okay, so what's the core? But instead of going like, I don't know, he's like, oh, what do you think the core is? And it's like, no.
I think the core is dealing with trauma and
Yeah,
not feeling believed that
trauma
you're in
demon.
pain.
Trauma
Yeah,
demon,
exactly.
it makes sense. But there's so many like I said, there are very interesting things that are posed in this movie that they could have went and made a successful narrative movie. The problem is I think he leaned so much into like it's just going to be jump scares, so the jump scare is what was more important to the narrative than the narrative itself. And that's my problem is if like I said, if that's your trick, it's not doing any service to the narrative.
Hmm.
Yeah, I agree. And then the other thing that got me was like she's at this house dealing with this demon at the end that's basically swall I just looked at it as that she already has it in her and now it's just fully consuming her and then that's where like it's finally filling every in nook and cranny and that's how I looked at it. Like a virus spreading.
Well,
So it
and
and
what
so
was sorry, go ahead.
and then with the boyfriend at the end, the ex-boyfriend or whatever, just randomly showing up. I was like,
Yeah.
what's
He
going on?
followed her Snapchat location, okay?
Yeah. That
Yeah,
was
that
so
third
out in
act
left
did
field
not
was
work for me.
what the fuck. Yeah, and then he shows up and then he's the one that now is going to have to deal with the same shit she just did, all because she got him involved.
The only creepy like uh atmosphere of the movie for me was when she was in the house before we really dealt with stuff, but like when she's walking through the hallways with the lantern and like the decrepit house, that
Yeah.
works. Like it's creepy. I like that like kind of vibe. But like that's 2 minutes, 2 minutes of the
Mhm.
whole movie.
The whole movie.
Really. And then like when it comes out and you're just seeing the hair come down, that was effective. Like
I
that
thought that
that
was, yeah.
that little pocket, I like that.
And the part with
But
her
why
mom,
did
like her talking to her, was
but
good too.
realistically, narratively, as a character, why did she go to that house? Like,
I don't
did she literally, like, because my brain goes, she's going to this house, because it reminded me of a movie called Fallen with Denzel Washington from the 90s, where there's like this demon that's hopping through bodies, causing all this stuff to happen, like all these people to kill people. So I was like, okay, so is she going out here because it's secluded to kill herself so then the demon can't pass on to somebody else? That makes sense narratively because she has that information. She
know.
has it. If that's not her purpose to go out there, then what is her purpose? So she's going to deal with her trauma because she has no reason to think that that's going to help anything.
Yeah. And
But then she goes,
she mentioned that she needed to be alone. So there is that, but then yeah, when she gets there then like the demon is then it turns into like literally facing your demons instead of just like trying to hold out and be secluded for the rest of your life or killing yourself so then it doesn't pass on. So yeah, that doesn't really link up.
yeah. So like
Mm-mm.
how I looked at it is like you get out there, you're secluded, you just kill yourself, you save the
Yeah.
day. And that's still a downer ending because they give you the downer ending
Hmm.
that sets up for a sequel that they could have
Yeah.
also done in a better way. They could have had her kill somebody else, like the boyfriend, which I thought she was going to do. That's a whole other route that I thought they were going to go. Kill the boyfriend in front of somebody, then it passes on to them, and she's still because the guy in prison has already done that. So we
Yeah.
have that information we can do.
Yep.
She doesn't follow the information that she's given at all.
And neither does the boyfriend. The
Nobody.
boyfriend knows what's going to happen if he watches her burn
Yes.
to death.
No,
All he had
fucking.
to do was leave the room.
This is what I'm talking about, where it's just
Yeah.
like, here's a creepy thing, but why? Like
Yeah.
it doesn't fucking make sense.
What does it for me is just following how sad Rose is, honestly, and then a couple jump scares. But yeah, the ending does not do it for me. I don't like it at all.
I would suggest, Natasha, if you haven't seen it, to watch It Follows. Because if you like to watch a descent into madness and people not believing people and something stalking you and it's really fucking creepy, watch It Follows. It's the the basic way that people are like told about this movie. It's like, oh, it's like a demon that follows people like an STD. It's passed on sexually.
That's what I know about it.
Yeah,
Yep.
exactly, right? But it's
So
actually
I
good.
haven't watched it.
It's actually good, and it's not like gratuitous. Like it's not like a porn or anything like that. But like that's the idea behind it, and it works. As dumb as that may sound, it
Yeah.
works. And it's the same thing. Smile has like a cool core where it's like this entity passes itself on after somebody causes somebody else trauma. You are now witnessing this suicide. Therefore, now it's going to feed off of that trauma. That is cool. I like that idea.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't fucking do itself any service, though, in that. And that's my problem. Because, like Steph said, we're given all the information at the beginning, and now all we're doing is watching the descent into madness that I feel is poorly executed. But that's me.
Gotcha.
Agreed.
All right. Well, do you guys want to get into review territory?
Do you want to
Yes.
go last? Because you're going to be the champion.
Okay.
Have at it.
You can go first, honey, but we're going to guess what you're rating it.
Yes, go ahead.
Okay. I'm going to guess you're going to rate it a 3.
That's what I was thinking too.
You girls are right. I'm giving this movie a 3. For all the reasons that I'd said
Yeah.
previously. It gets its 3 because it's got a cool idea. I am going to go see the sequel that comes out because I pay for my monthly pass. So
Oh.
I have, if there's nothing else that comes out that weekend, I will check it out. I'm not expecting to like it, but this is my
It's going to
thing.
be it's going to be better than
It's
this one.
it's got to be better than this
It
one
has to be.
because I have a feeling that maybe some notes have been given and like maybe there's like some
I'm
extra
hoping.
writers on board that like make a narrative. And the girl just in the trailers itself looks like she is a better actress.
Mhm.
And that is the biggest problem with it. Well, the two biggest problems is the narrative incongruity throughout it. It just feels like a piece of this, a piece of that, a piece of this, smashed it together. This is what people think is creepy. Let's throw some jump scares in it, and that's it. That's not a successful movie. I'm looking for a movie that like I go, the story was cool, not just the idea. And then also on top of the incongruity is just the acting is atrocious. Super fucking bad. They're either overacting or underacting the entire time. And
I
I
think
that
that's all director
that has
related.
to be director reason because
Yeah.
the head doctor is the dude from Harold and Kumar, and I've seen him in other stuff, and he's a good actor.
Yeah.
So this is all like the casting director, the writer. This is my problem with quote unquote big budget horror films because there's so much oversight. Now, I'm not saying that there shouldn't be any oversight because then you get Terrifier 2, which is just like somebody should have reeled him in. This movie doesn't need to be 7 days long. But it feels like too many cooks in the kitchen.
Yeah.
And I feel that they fluked out on it being a success, specifically off of Gen Z. This is their spooky, like, oh, it's
Yeah.
so fucking creepy because they're not looking for depth. And I understand that not every horror film needs to be fucking an A24 film.
A24 film.
That's not what I'm asking for. That is not what I'm asking for. I'm just asking for it to make some sort of sense. I shouldn't come out of the movie going, what the fuck did I just watch? And not in a good way, just going like, how the fuck did all the people look at this script and go, this makes sense? Because yeah, it didn't.
I
So
agree.
yeah, 3 out of 10. Fuck this movie.
Yep.
But again, like I said, I'm gonna go see the sequel. Why? Because I cannot pass judgment on something I haven't seen. I can say it doesn't look like it's for me, but I can't say with good faith that something sucks unless it happens to me. I go, I didn't like that.
Yes.
So that's why I'm always down for any horror film, even if I know that it's not going to be for me. But I can go into it with just giving it what it is. So
Yeah.
Okay,
thank you.
logic about food.
Thank you
Yeah.
for like bringing it to the table though, because I would have never watched this otherwise. And all it did though is it reestablished my like my thing of going like, no, I'm right. Like I knew that this wasn't for
Yeah.
me. So at least I wish that I liked it. Realistically, because then I go like, ooh, what else have I fucking like turned a blind eye to specifically because I'm an elitist bastard. But
Yeah.
Not this
Okay.
one.
nope. Nope.
Okay.
I think Steph gave this a 2.5.
Ooh, man. Let's see here. I'm gonna go at 2.
Nick's right. I gave us a
Oh
2.
my god!
Wow. Okay.
I fucking hated this movie. This was
Wow.
up there with The Exorcist.
Oh
It,
my god!
Damn.
it was awful. Actually, The Exorcist actually has a narrative, so that makes more sense. This one does not. If you want to see a movie that's actually doing something similar to this movie, just go fucking watch Oculus. Go watch The Ring. Go watch fucking Talk to Me, because the same thing, entity touching you, getting with you, following you through madness, kind of all of that shit. Yeah, go watch those movies. Don't watch this movie. This
Oh my
movie and
god!
That's her
every
PSA.
yes, and every single shape of the movie, I was dissecting it, trying to figure out like, well, is there a piece of this I really liked? Is there anything? The acting was just fucking so bland. That's what it was to me. It was like just so boring. The I'm not a jump scare person, so that doesn't work for me. We already covered that. I I'm not gonna go into a long diatribe about it. I'm just gonna say I did not like this movie. I would never watch this movie again. I would never recommend it to anybody. I think it
Yeah.
was shitty.
Like, yeah,
So
that's where it
You wouldn't
falls.
recommend it to
No.
anybody.
no.
No,
I would say if you want to watch a jump scare movie, I would give people another option of
There's a-
something else. Or if you need
That's fair.
if you need an emotional movie that you want to follow, just watch fucking Hereditary and be ruined forever.
That's too much.
It doesn't like see, and that's where like it falls into the 3 for me. Is it
Yeah.
doesn't succeed in anything.
Mm,
There's
Yeah.
not like one thing that I feel like, well, if you're looking for this one specific thing, then
That makes
smile.
sense.
The only
Yeah.
thing it would be is like, does it creep you out when people stare and smile at you? That's the only thing I guess it does.
So
Yeah,
it's got going for it.
I did not like it. So yes, it is because I was like, this is my gauge. Okay, so I obviously know 5 is like anything below that I don't ever want to watch again. And then we watched Terrifier 2, and I don't want to give any spoilers if people haven't listened to it, but I did not like that movie either. And I knew what I rated that movie, and I was like, this movie was way worse than that movie for me, so I rated it less than that because of that. So
Okay, I want to ask because I'm very interested in like, it's very rare for me to score this low, right?
yes,
But like I always go with like a 1 is like it's a movie. Like it gets that. And then
Mhm.
like why did I give it a 2? Why did I give it a 3? You know. So like mine is like it gets to where it is because like the sound design was cool, and then like I said, like the 2 minutes of like the creepy in the house and the creature coming out of the doorway when you can't see its face. There you go. There's your 3. What
Mm.
gives this a 2 and not a 1 for you? Not a, you know.
I have no idea.
Okay, I was just interested.
I honestly don't. There is still nothing about this movie
I'm
I
always
liked.
interested in seeing what makes certain scores for you girls because I understand what does it for me. So I'm always interested.
I don't know if I've ever given a 1 on a movie, so I'm kind of like, and I'm kind of like that with 10s. I'm kind of like stingy about both of those, and so, yeah,
I'm becoming more liberal with my scoring.
Yeah, you are.
I need to be a little bit too, but
I'll give
yeah.
10s. I'll give 2s. I don't know if I'll ever give a 1.
Oh, I will.
That's not.
Yeah, Tasha's
I
giving a
know.
lot of 1s.
Yeah. Oh yeah. But like, yeah.
warranted.
Who knows?
All right, what do we think Tasha's giving this?
I think she's giving it a 6.25.
I think Tasha's giving this a 5.5.
I'm giving it a 6.
Okay.
Okay.
A 6. So the reason I'm giving it a 6, I liked the cinematography. I like it when they have cool swoopy cameras. I like the overhead shots. I like the long pans. That in and of itself is a
There
part
was,
of the
I'm sorry, not to
movie.
cut you off. There was one shot in the movie that was very early on that I said to Steph, is this CG or is this a real shot? Because it was an overhead shot of like someone coming in on a gurney and it like
Mhm.
pans up and goes through a window. And I thought that was a really cool shot. And it was done in a way that I couldn't tell like exactly.
It was real. That
That
was
was real?
an
That's a
actual
cool shot.
that they
That is a
had.
cool shot.
And and they had a really hard time shooting that shot too for it, like going through the glass and things like
Yep.
that. Finn is really big into actual effects and used very little CGI, and the majority of it is practical unless it needed, like obviously the
Hmm.
entity, things like that, were were CGI, but the rest of it he like geeks out on practical effects. So maybe that'll be more in the
Yeah.
next movie since he's
Oh,
still getting his feet wet.
yeah. Continue though. Sorry. I did once you
No,
said shots, that jumped back to my brain.
yeah. I like the sound design. I like the cinematography. The acting could have been better. I liked Sosie's character because she was just so meek. I think that was it could, yes, it could have been done better, but for this movie, it didn't pop out to me as terrible acting. Um and the jump scares. I'm a highly reactive person
Yeah, you are.
when it comes to jump scares. So anytime I can get that, like that jump, I love it because then afterwards I'm kind of like riding a high for a couple minutes. It's nice.
Is that your
Um,
driving force for horror films?
no, not for all
Okay.
horror
Okay.
films because some of them aren't successful.
Correct.
Um, like if there's too much going on and then a jump scare happens, that doesn't happen. But if I'm immersed into something like it did a couple of times in this movie where you're focused on what she's focusing on and it draws it out just long enough, I can get captivated in that for the jump scare to be effective. I might even know a jump scare is coming and I will force that out of my thought process
Okay.
so I can get that jump scare.
Because you're hunting for it. You're wanting the
Exactly.
jump
I
scare.
want that. Yeah.
See,
I
see,
knew in the house.
that's where you and I differentiate because like where you're saying you know it's coming and you go, nope, I'm gonna let it happen. I
Yes.
notice it and I go, that's bad. I shouldn't notice that. So that's a huge differentiation of like your viewing experience and mine.
Yeah.
Neither
So I
of them
knew
are
in
right, but it's like
right.
that is a
That's
huge
just how
difference.
we watch it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I knew in the house that that jump scare was going to come. I couldn't remember what it was, but I could tell by how long things were being drawn out that something was going to happen.
Yeah.
And that was the one that got me the best. And it was great. Um, so for all of that, I'm giving it
Yeah.
whatever I said, a 6.
I do have a suggestion for you though, if you like jump scare movies and stuff
Yeah.
like that. Another effective one. I'm not a huge fan of it per se because of, whatever, but I have watched 3 of them now, is Insidious. If you have not watched
Hmm.
Insidious by James Wan, he made The Conjuring and Saw and stuff like that. Check that out. Like it's an effective jump scare movie if you like that kind of stuff. And it like I personally my favorite one of that series is what some people think is the worst one, but like the third one I think is the best. But yeah, who fucking knows?
Gotcha.
But yeah, like if you're looking for something that's jump scare, fodder or whatever, that I think is like that. See, that's the difference. I would suggest that movie, even though it's like a whatever to me.
Yeah.
If you like jump scares, there you go. Smile doesn't do that for me in that sense. So
Is
Yeah.
that the reason why you like Scream so much, Tasha? Because those movies are just inundated with jump scares.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't
See,
need the gore. I don't
mm,
need slashers. I want to feel sorry for the character
okay.
and get startled.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the Screams, those are one of the very few movies that are out there that because I haven't watched them in so long. And when I rewatched the first one we did for the podcast, and when I watched it for the second, when I rewatched the second one, I had jump scares because I hadn't seen them in a while. And that doesn't happen to me very often. And I think those movies do jump scares so successfully that it kind of
But that's
it's
not what
hard
it
to watch.
but that's not what it just leans on though.
No,
Yeah.
but like it
There's a lot of
because
other
there's a lot of narrative too, and they're really well made. But like you go into those movies and they're so like for me, those jump scares and those movies are so successful. I don't know about the new ones because I haven't seen them yet, but like the originals,
it
the
does the
first
same
2 at
thing.
least,
It does the
yeah,
same thing.
it's so I don't know why because like I don't usually jump scare, but those are the one movies that I know for a fact I've watched, and I think I know when it's gonna happen, and it doesn't happen, and then I end up getting jump scared. So though that works for me, and I get like the feeling of like what Tasha's saying, like it feels good. It does. I agree. I just don't. It never happens to me.
Yeah.
So I'm like, and so I'm one of those people that it's usually 2 steps ahead of a lot of characters in the storylines. I'm like, this is when they're gonna do this, and so that's how I already know. And like I wish I could push it out of my head and not try to figure out the story beforehand, but I just don't work that
Yeah.
way.
That's
You
why
gotta
I
be
like
present.
that's why I like the
Yes, I
third
know.
Insidious though, because it successfully jump scared me multiple times.
Okay,
Awesome.
see?
Like,
Yeah.
which does not fucking happen. And I was
Mm-mm.
just like, oh shit, like this actually worked. The reason I've gotten that far is because Wesley really likes them, so we were watching
Oh yeah.
through all of them. But yeah,
Okay.
That's what I like about the Paranormal Activity movies. That's the whole point of them.
yeah, and
Okay.
we'll get to that.
Yeah, we
I,
haven't
So
seen that
yeah,
yet.
if we ever watch those, you guys probably aren't gonna like them, but I'm
I
gonna
don't.
be.
I like found
just-
footage, so
Oh,
Yeah.
that's true.
See, I
Yeah.
don't, so that'll be interesting to see.
Yeah.
Yeah.
so
that's
what's that
what
give
I'm
us? What's that give us for our final score?
That gives Smile a whopping 37%.
saying.
Okay, so
Woo!
it's got a higher score than Terrifier 2, but
Thank God.
I think it also still falls in the same thing of this isn't for everybody. Like
No.
this
Yeah.
is for the people that are jump scare hunters. That's what I'm going. That's what I'm going to call
and
you,
that like
Tasha.
sad,
You are.
and, like sad movies.
I didn't catch the sad. I didn't catch the
Well,
sad.
that was the intention though.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
If you want to feel bad for the main character,
Yep.
not as bad as you would for the family in Hereditary. Like, yes,
Yeah.
there are movies that are done better, but I would say if you want to feel bad for the main character, yes, and effective jump scares, I think they were done well.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, if you've gotten this far and listened to us and stuff, sorry for spoiling it. I mean, but yeah, if you like jump
kind of
scares,
knew what you were in for.
yeah, if you like jump scares, I think that's the thing. It's one of those things like I would suggest certain like Dead Alive, right? I would suggest Dead Alive. If you really like splatter stuff, but like would I just suggest that to anybody? No, you have to like this specific style of horror. You have to like splatter and like horror comedies, and that's that. You have to want a certain kind of thing. So
You
that's-
have to be willing to fast forward through Dead Alive, the first part of it, so you can get to the good parts.
yeah.
That's all. That movie would have been rated so much higher. Just saying.
All right. So,
So what's our homework, Nick?
homework for next week. You had actually mentioned it while we were talking through this. So we will be watching Sinister next week for
Alright.
our episode. So I don't have the year in front of me. We'll find that out later. But this stars Ethan Hawke, I believe is who the lead is in this.
Okay.
I await your girls like take on the film and stuff like
Okay.
that. So
It's from 2012, and you can find it on Hulu, Prime, or Max.
there we go.
That's
So
good.
make sure you do your homework. I don't want to have to make people go to summer school, even though summer's almost over. Give you a Saturday school, I
Mhm.
guess.
This last week's homework was hard, so this one hopefully will be less difficult.
I have a feeling. I got a feeling deep in my gut that
Okay.
everyone's gonna like this movie. I just have a
Okay.
feeling.
Okay.
We've been on a stretch of
Not so good.
somebody liking it and then everybody else hating it.
Yeah,
I have a feeling that this is the one that's going to straighten out the ship a bit.
I hope
I've
so.
seen it.
Oh, you have seen
So-
it?
I'm excited to talk about it. Yeah.
Cool. All right.
Okay.
For Pot of the Dead, you are Natasha.
I am. I was gonna do it.
Oh, go
I'm
ahead.
Natasha.
You do it. You're running the show. I'm sorry. I'm stepping on toes.
Yeah, Jesus. For Pot of the Dead, I am Natasha.
I am Stephanie.
I am Nicholas.
Come back and listen to us, or else.
Man, I was stepping all over toes nonstop. I'm
You
sorry.
were. It's
I'm
okay.
glad you did the homework because I didn't know what the homework